The delegate from Norfolk, Delegate Jones.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Delegate Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, members of the House. 2 years ago, I rose on this floor to deliver my installment of the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus's annual Moments in Black History. I chose a topic that resonated with me and my district, and that was the Norfolk 17. I read each one of their names aloud that day. And for those of you who don't recall, the Norfolk 17 were the first group of black students to desegregate the public school system back in 1959, in the wake of Brown versus Board of Education, drawn-out legal battles, and massive resistance. Indeed, their legacy looms large in Norfolk, and I've tried to do my part to amplify their story beyond our area because it plays such a significant role in Virginia, but also ties into this country's challenging history on race. Colleagues, last week we lost another one of the venerable 17. Lewis L. Cousins passed away at the age of 76 in San Antonio, Texas. If you don't know his name, you might be more familiar with the picture featuring Mr. Cousins, which became both iconic and emblematic of the times. And if you haven't seen that photo, I urge you to Google it, because I shall briefly tell the accompanying story. At age 15, Cousins walked into Maury High School as the first black to desegregate that institution. His initial stop that day was the auditorium. There, the local newspaper captured the photo of Cousins seated all the way in the front row, head held high, probably both defiant and terrified of the bold choice he made to walk this path. Because of his presence in the front of the room, his white classmates assembled in the back and along the side wall, staying as far away from him as possible. Cousins sat there as a stoic pioneer and a solitary warrior. But his strength filled blacks around Virginia with hope that if a 15-year-old could endure, so too could they. His journey would be lonely, and undoubtedly it was solitudinous. His classmates ostracized and ignored him, baited him to fight, and even spat on him, and a cross burned in his front yard. Mr. Cousins was keenly aware of how much his role in the struggle meant. He'd say, "Don't you ever tell anybody that I integrated that school." Instead, he'd say, "I desegregated that school." And after finishing at Maury, Cousins went to the Air Force, which led him to San Antonio with his child sweetheart, Dolores. And they started a family there, and Cousins lived his life trying to square his experience as an adolescent while making his way through this often complicated world. He returned to Virginia on occasion to commemorate his part in the Norfolk 17. Today, we remember and are grateful for Lewis Cousins' contributions to Virginia's march towards justice. But sadly, with the passing of Mr. Cousins, only 9 of the 17 remain. And while only 61 years removed from segregation, many in Virginia have no idea who these steady warriors are or how large their place in Virginia's history should be. And with each passing day, we risk losing those who were in the room when it happened, which I submit to you all today would be tantamount to losing part of ourselves. We would be well served to appreciate the giants that still walk among us who can tell the stories before they move on to the next life. And while the Norfolk 17 are quiet, self-effacing heroes who don't seek the spotlight regarding their place in history, it is on us to make sure that subsequent generations are aware of their bravery and sacrifice, especially the millions of students who passed through Virginia public school doors over the years because of Cousins and his peers. We can achieve this in many, many ways, including embedding this history in our school curriculums, within our community groups, and in the discourse of our own homes. Madam Speaker, that flame of justice that the Norfolk 17 and their fellow heroes ignited still burns to this day. It must be our cause and mission to ensure that we highlight, honor, and pay tribute to these courageous men and women over and over and over again, and have no shame about shouting it from the rooftops so that flame will never extinguish. And I pray that we continue to stoke the flame of justice by sharing these stories so that it burns brightly into perpetuity, generations after the 17 no longer walk among us. Thank you, Madam Speaker.